Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
Hey, Kiernan.
Hi, Ryan. I notice on that hi, you're really trying to pound the mic. I feel like you're trying to blast my eardrums out.
Well, I got a cold, and so I'm just trying to bring more energy than I usually do. Overcompensate for the fact that I'm sick, yeah. I apologize if I sound a bit like Kermit the Frog, more than usual.
I think you sound better than ever.
That's probably, the voice that I was born with is not a prize.
I'm not sure that's yet another asset you bring as a co-host.
People say, wow, you do not have a voice for radio. I get that a lot.
Well, Ryan, I'm glad you're here because we are talking about today's not one of the sexier episodes. Sometimes we're tackling
are there sexy episodes?
Place.
You mean like phallic Bhutan? Like, what do you mean by sexy?
Yeah, sure. I mean, phallic Bhutan, most popular episode we've got. That's mine, folks. And today we're talking about nuts and bolts of travel. This is a key topic that if you're going to be a world traveler, you've got to understand travel visas.
Oh, yeah. People love a travel visa. I mean, you need one.
You do need one. You need one sometimes. Sometimes you can walk into a country with just a regular passport, but sometimes you need to jump through a whole bunch of hoops. Some of those hoops are small and on fire, and it can be hard to get a travel visa. So we're going to talk through how you know what you need, how you take care of it so you have plenty of time to get into the country you want. And then we're going to share a story, each of us. Ryan, I think you've got a bundle of stories about all your misadventures in visa land.
I am a very experienced traveler, so I'm always on point when it comes to these visas.
I think you will prove that is not the case. But before we jump into the weird and wild world of travel visas, first, Ryan, I've got an update on the quest for Rick Steves.
Wait, is Rick going to be on the podcast to talk about visas?
So what you're referencing there is that, the quest for Rick Steves, which was launched many, many episodes ago, is about,
I think, 102 episodes ago.
That's weird for episode, whatever, 54 or 3, whatever this is.
That's how it feels, Kiernan. That's how it feels.
We're still in the process of booking Rick Steves to come on the podcast. Got some encouragement from his staff. We have a productive back and forth going.
Have we got recent encouragement?
A lack of discouragement is a type of encouragement. I've always sworn by that rule.
As long as it's not a cease and desist, we are making progress.
Exactly right. And so I've got an update on the quest for Rick Steves. No, Ryan, he has not. We haven't locked in a date yet. To your question, he's not ready to be on the show quite yet. He's very busy this year. He's off with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, saving the world. But I've been told 2020 is a promising time. No, Ryan, I've got it's actually some darker news about Rick.
Really?
Steves. And you and I are sort of implicated in it.
What?
I think, yeah, you may recall for like the past few years, we've always kind of made light about how he and many other travel writers, they're always talking about how there's all these pickpockets all over the world. And how, you and I, we've never been pickpocketed. We've been all over the place.
Right, I've never been pickpocketed. I've been robbed, but not pickpocketed.
Have you been robbed?
Yeah, but I have been robbed. Yeah, I have, sure.
Well, really?
Yeah.
Oh, but you mean when the guy took your bag?
No, in Romania, I was in a I met someone, and I know, and they came to my hotel room. We were just gonna hang.
Oh.
And then after we were hanging for a while, I fell asleep, and when I woke up, my iPhone was gone. But that wasn't
that's a robbing.
That wasn't a pickpocket.
No, agreed. So what is the line you draw between robbing and pickpocketing?
Oh, robbing is either a violent, like a mugging, or it's somebody comes into your space and they take something from you. But a pickpocketing is like on this, you don't really have any interaction. It's like in this life, one thing counts. In the bank, large amounts. I'm afraid these don't grow on trees. You got to pick a pocket or two. So it's like that. It's like more like
there's something sort of cute about it.
Yeah.
It's like a child with sticky fingers.
Exactly.
That's how I think of pickpocketing.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, for those who don't know, the 90% of our audience that absolutely hates all Broadway musicals, that was an outtake from. That was a song from Oliver, a great adaptation of Oliver Twist of The Great White Way,
and sung by Fagin, one of the most famous pickpockets out there. you
Well,
know?
and he was sort of the master of the
Right.
pickpockets, but I believe he often demonstrates through choreography that he still got it in those nimble little
Incredibly
fingers.
elaborate choreography. Yeah.
Yeah, and also Fagin, a major hero of Ryan's. And so, so the dark news is, you and I, we've kind of rolled our eyes about pickpocketing, especially in these Western European capitals.
Right.
But Rick Steves, after so many years of doing this, he estimates 4,000 days of travel in his life. He finally got pickpocketed.
Wow.
Yeah, he was on the Paris Metro.
No, well, I mean, you're asking for it.
Yeah, he was on the Paris Metro, and I think Rick Steves does look like a little bit of a target. I think that's probably safe to say. He kind of has the tucked in shirt, and he looks like a nice guy. Like he would, if he caught you, you could say, "Oh, I tripped and my fingers fell into your pocket."
Right.
Actually, right. I don't like the grin that you got when I said that. And so, Rick Steves, always a glass half full, kind of make lemonade kind of guy. He turned this tough experience, into a helpful article online. We'll link to it in the show notes. It's called "Dodging Sticky Fingers: How to Outfox Pickpockets."
Right. This seems like sort of let the terrorists win kind of idea. It's like he gets mugged, or not even mugged. He gets pickpocketed once.
Yeah.
In his entire life.
Right.
And then he's like, I gotta wear a money belt. I mean, I think
actually, do you know that is absolutely his recommendation?
Yeah, but
he's a big fan of the money belt.
I mean, the money belt. Hey, who's carrying around that much cash in 20? What is he doing that he needs that much cash?
I mean, just for what it's worth, why don't you define what a money belt is, in case folks don't know?
Well, in my mind, it's something that you wear under your clothes that keeps money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it's almost like a fanny pack, like for inside your pants.
Yeah.
It's like a dance belt, but you put money in it also.
Yeah, I feel like you and I are against the money belt. The money belt is not. I don't think the money belt's necessary.
I believe in wearing pants with a button on that pocket. The pocket where you're going to put that cash. I guess my jeans don't have that, but the jeans, they're tight enough, they're flattering, and I'm going to feel if that wallet disappears, because you're going to be grazing my supple buttocks.
Yeah, and maybe Rick Steves should stop wearing
actually, I should
jeans.
probably take out supple buttocks, because I do want to send this to Rick Steves' people, and I feel like if I mention supple buttocks, we may not book them in 2020.
I think a better solution than a money belt is to not wear dad jeans, to wear very stylish jeans that form fitting, that you can't just slide in there and take that cash away.
You're definitely not wrong that that Rick attends. His wardrobe is more on the dad side of things. So it seems like what we're saying is maybe the kind of new version of the money belt is tight pants.
Yeah, tight pants, not money belt. Not money belt. I mean, and look, and if you're wearing too tight of pants, you can't possibly wear a money belt.
No, that's it. You're right about
you'd be
that.
like,
yeah,
are you wearing a money belt, or are you just happy to see me?
Or did you have a big lunch? Well, listen, Rick Steves, he doesn't recount exactly what was taken. You get the sense it was his wallet. But he does go back to his own guide. He has all the information he needs to cancel those credit cards, lock down all of his personal items. And, I do, of course, want to kind of close out by saying we extend our sympathies. It's a sad thing when somebody gets pickpocketed. We will take your cautions more to heart in the future. You've certainly taught us, and we are sorry for your pain. Listen, if there's anything that you lost, maybe if you lost like a signed photograph or me of Ryan or something like that, Rick, we are happy to send you another one in the mail.
Yeah, I mean, we've sent him so many already. What's one more? Unsolicited signed photograph.
And so we can close out the quest for Rick Steves by just reminding Mr. Steves, this seat is not taken for you, Rick. It is here for you in the studio. We are ready to have you. And Ryan, I don't know about you. I promise my hands will come nowhere near your pants pockets.
Right. I mean, the only time I'm reaching for your pants pockets is, after dinner when the check comes.
All right. Well, listen, check please on this segment. All right. I think it's time that we get into the weird and wild world of travel visas. Ryan, it's time to take off.
Flight attendants?
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
Today's topic, travel visas. This is not something that folks want to mess around with. When you are traveling to a foreign country, you have to take seriously the need for a travel visa. So, Ryan, what exactly is a travel visa?
A travel visa is something that certain countries require from other countries for their citizens to come visit your country. So, for instance, if you want to go visit a country like Russia, you need to get a visa so you can actually go there. And they put it in your passport and you can go and then they look for your visa. They go, okay, this person's cleared to enter.
And these are one-on-one agreements between countries. And so the result is a labyrinth of rules and regulations over which you have no say and which you can absolutely not violate. And what you may need to get a visa to go to one place may be nothing like what you need to get a visa to another place. And if you're a dual passport holder, you might find that it's really easy on one of your passports to travel in, and it's extremely arduous to get a visa on the other.
Right. So in that case, you should pick the passport where you don't need a visa or you need limited visa and use that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, because we're both American, majority of our listeners are in America, we will be speaking this from an American perspective. We're lucky in America. There are a lot of countries that we can visit with a few or minimal visa requirements.
Right. But, you might be surprised the countries that do require you to have a visa.
That's exactly right. And that's the point, is there is no rhyme or reason. Even if you are the most experienced traveler, you've got to check this out. And so, Ryan, I basically have laid out what I'm calling, you may remember on the souvenir choosing episode, I gave 3 Ps for the key to finding that perfect souvenir. Right. Do you remember those?
Yeah, the 3 Ps.
The 3 Ps, you got
price.
Price. You always know what I start with.
Yeah, it's always price. Preciousness.
You're close. I think what you're getting to, you're alluding to, is potency. That's exactly right. Potency, and then very practical.
Portability.
That's exactly right. How are you going to get that home?
I'm not only a co-host, I'm a listener, folks.
Well, I'm happy to say, Ryan, today, that was just 3 Ps for souvenirs. Today, I am excited to introduce you to what I call the 4 Ps of Kiernan Schmidt's travel visa framework. The 4 Ps.
Is it a good idea to also have Ps for this one? Because people are going to forget.
Every framework I put together, I want it to be Ps. Okay,
it's gonna be. You understand how people are going to have to remember? Wait, is it the 3 Ps or the 4 Ps for visas?
It's easy. Souvenir 3 Ps. Travel visa 4 Ps. It's easy.
It's easy.
And the word travel visa. Oh, actually, that's actually shorter than souvenir, isn't it? Okay, so it's the reverse. So travel visa, that's shorter than souvenir, so it's more Ps. It's very easy.
Oh man, it's like a mnemonic device.
Exactly, it's a mnemonic device. So the first P is problem. You have to figure out, do you have a problem? By finding out, does your destination require a visa?
Right.
And
this is super important.
Exactly. And Ryan, what is the best resource to go to?
Well, the best resource to go to would be the State Department, travel.state.gov, or whatever your country's equivalent to that is.
That's right. And I will say this is a surprisingly functional and up-to-date website, travel.state.gov. I'll put it in the show notes, but all you have to know is if you go to Google and you search for the name of the country you're going to, visa requirements, the first return will be to travel.state.gov.
Right. And this is something that we recommend that you do for any country that you haven't been to before. Just give it a quick Google. It'll take 1 minute and it could save you a lot of time.
And Ryan, my recommendation is you tackle this first P problem the second you decide whether you're going somewhere. And that's because
even before, that could be part of your planning. Like, do I want to bother getting a visa?
Oh, good point. Yeah. So if you know that you want to travel somewhere last minute in a week or 2 weeks, and you don't have 2 months to wait, that may prevent you from getting into certain places.
Exactly. There's different wait times for different countries' visas. So, like, for instance, if you go to a country, like when we were allowed to go to Cuba, it was very simple. You could basically fill out a form online and print out your visa, and you could go the next day. But there are other countries we have to go to the consulate or the embassy and go through like a whole lot of, stress, I think, to get your visa.
Yeah. And the variety of ways to get the visa they're like infinite. There are some places where you can land, but you have to be at a certain airport and you could apply for the visa right there.
I'm a big fan of that. I think that if countries are serious about wanting tourists, they should, visa on demand is a way to go. VOD, I call it.
But you know what? Is that what you call it?
That's what I call it, yeah.
Okay, that could be a subset of the first P is the VOD on demand. And some places are trying to make getting a visa more difficult to keep tourism down. So that's the case with Bhutan, for example, where it's such an arduous process that they are trying to make it hard so that only the people who really want to go there get in and that they don't suffer from over-tourism.
Yeah, and countries that are extremely popular need to do that. But there are a lot of other countries that I think make their visa process unnecessarily hard and might not be suffering from over-tourism.
That's right, and the requirements can be arbitrary. So, two of the requirements that many people forget is that they require you to have one or two blank pages in a passport. So, if you're a frequent traveler, you may find that you don't have enough empty pages. You may actually have to get a new passport to get the visa.
Yeah, we've talked about the extra large passports, so the old XLs, right?
Yeah, you want to get the, I think I called it the big boy.
Yeah, you used to call it the big boy. And I called it the, I made a condom reference.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you want to get that big boy so that you always have extra visa pages. You're going to go for the bigger passport if you've got many travels plans. Also, and this is a really obscure one, easy to forget, many countries have a requirement that your passport that you're coming with is valid for a certain amount of time after you enter the country. Many times it's 60 or 90 days.
Yeah, I have a horror story about a friend who went to Mexico, and they're supposed to look at your passport and then not let you in if it's within that window.
Right,
but they didn't notice, and he didn't notice, and they let him in, and then his passport expired while he was in Mexico.
Oh my God.
And so he had to basically go to the embassy in Mexico City to
set up a life in Mexico, and he's never come back.
Please help me. I don't know, he had to hire a coyote to bring him across. So.
And so, do you know how he ended up resolving it?
He ended up having to go to the embassy and getting a quick extension on his passport or something temporarily to get back home.
Gosh. Yeah, that sounds like
not the way you want to spend your spend your vacation.
Recreational time.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. So, you check you have the right amount of passport pages. Check if your passport needs to be valid for a certain amount of time. And that State Department website is going to give you all the rest of the information you need. And, Ryan, there is a reason that I'm saying that you should do this right away at the top of your planning process.
Right.
And that's because, you don't want to be some kind of idiot and show up in a country, walk off a plane, be ready. You made all these plans. You've read about the country you're going to.
Right.
And
you booked hotels, you've booked
dinners.
Theater,
the whole itinerary. And then, some sort of moron who's never traveled, you don't have your visa. I mean, do you know anyone that's ever happened to?
It's unlikely, right? Because
very unlikely, especially for somebody who claims to be an expert in the travel world, like someone who has a travel podcast.
But to actually arrive in a country without your visa, you can't fly. Like you wouldn't be able to fly out of JFK to a country that you didn't have a visa to.
Oh, I see. So you're saying that the blame should lie with those who let you, let's say you, just to make this easy, somebody who let you get on a plane to that country. Now, you're right. There is supposed to be a checkpoint before you get on a plane that they see that you have fulfilled all the visa requirements, much like your friend with the expiration. That should have been caught before he went.
Okay, so what Kiernan is alluding to is a thing that happened to me a couple years ago.
I've been waiting for this story to come on the pod.
So a couple Christmases ago, I was supposed to meet a good friend of mine in Brazil for a vacation. And so he was flying from New York, and I was in Europe for some work stuff, and I was going to fly over from Europe. So we're going to meet in Brazil. This is the idea.
Sure.
So I'm in Italy, and they've let me board the plane, and I'm sitting on the tarmac about to take off and head to Brazil. And I get this text from my friend, and he's just checked in to the flight at JFK. And he says, "Did they let you board?" And I said, "Of course. I'm on the tarmac." And he goes, "Oh, no, we need visas to go to Brazil." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "No, they won't let us board." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "They won't let me board the flight. I can't go to Brazil."
And you're like, "I'm on the way to Brazil on this Italian tarmac."
Yeah, so literally as he's saying this, the people are saying like, "Put your phone away. It's time." I'm like, "Wait a minute, can you let me off this plane?" But of course, I can't say, let me off this plane because it's like, that would be an international incident.
And are you desperately Googling like Brazil visa?
I feel like there must be, I'm like, who do I know in the Brazilian state? There must be
Right.
some kind of string I can pull.
Yeah.
And this is like a 12-hour flight I'm about to go on. Okay. I'm in economy. This is, I'm supposed to get rewarded.
Yeah, and you're going to be panicked the whole time
Yeah.
about what's going to happen. They're going to be armed Brazilian guards when you get off.
So I fly across the world and I land in Brazil.
Can I ask, on the flight, are you Googling Brazil visa, or were you cut off from internet panicking for 12 hours?
I'm not panicking because of the absurdity of the situation. Like I figure it'll be fine.
Now, that for what it's worth, I do think your first mistake is you have two mistakes you've already put in here.
Yeah.
I mean, the first, of course, is not looking this up when you decided to go
That's
to
the big
Brazil.
one, I think.
The second is the idea that you could pull a string, because this is uniquely one of those processes where unless you have a connection extremely high up in a government, these are regulations that it is very, very hard, if not impossible, to get around.
Right. Well, so Brazil has this weird reciprocal visa thing. Like we think because their citizens have to get visas to come here, that that we should have to get visas to go there, even though you can go most places in South America, without having to get a visa.
Mm-hmm.
So it never occurred to either of us that you would need a visa to go to Brazil. It never said when we bought the tickets, like, make sure you get a visa, like it often does. Like
no, it does. See, but that's the point, is that you can't rely on that. That's why this needs to. This is why this episode.
You understand that I've learned from this, right? Like I'm not like still advocating. Like I
don't know. You have kind of a braggy sound in your voice. I feel like you like that this happened.
All right, so whatever. I landed
because it sounds adventurous, Oh,
I haven't even. You keep interrupting. I'm trying to tell about the adventure.
Did you tell anybody on the plane?
No. In fact, the guy next to me like told me to turn my phone off, and I was like, "Do you work? I'm sorry, do you work for Air Italia?" Like, And so we had an awkward.
So you're starting to
awkward hours.
You're starting to get mouthy with Brazilians who are like, "Hey, guess what? I'm going to be able to walk out of the airport. How about you?"
Oh, so I get there and I land, and when you land from a foreign country, there are two directions you can go. You can go one that says you're going to transfer planes, so you don't have to go through customs
to another flight,
or you go to one that says I'm going to enter Brazil. So I don't have a flight, and so I stop there for a second. I start to think like, okay, like what am I actually going to do now? Right. Because I can't do either of these things. And then somebody stops and they go like, you can't stand here. This is for, and I'm like, well, I don't have a visa.
I'm searching for a third door,
right,
for idiots.
I'm like, so I've landed here. I'm undocumented, and so I tell this to this guard who spoke beautiful English, and then he was thrilled. Like this to him was like, he's like, oh my god, an American has landed in Brazil without a visa, and he like calls several other people over, so they kind of surround me like I'm like a risk. Did
they ring a bell?
No, I don't know how they can. It was very quick, and so I'm having this conversation with this woman who works at Air Italia, and I've explained the situation, and so she's trying to convince the gentlemen who work with Brazilian security that I don't need to go into like some holding cell. Like we're going to figure it out.
Right. You're okay.
Right. But we're all it's all like I'm standing in this place I'm not supposed to stand. There are people gathered around me. There are passengers looking at me as they walk, normal people who have gotten their visas or, transferring their flights. And I have to just go on my phone and just buy the first flight I can find to get the hell out of Brazil.
Do they make you do that?
Well, there are only two doors, Kiernan. And
right, but was their solution they were going to take you to like a holding cell?
If I didn't have a ticket that I could show them that I was transferring, they were going to take me to some kind of situation that did not sound like the Delta Sky Lounge that I'm accustomed to. Okay,
and you've got a perimeter around you
of men, which
brawny,
is usually great. I had come to Brazil for a perimeter of men around
for a perimeter of brawny Brazilian men. Yeah. So in a way, you got exactly what you had come for.
Yeah, and quicker than usual. Basically in the tarmac. So what happens is I end up buying a flight that takes off in like 5 hours and has a layover in Panama City.
Uh-huh.
to Mexico City. So this is an additional like 11 hours of travel. I've
And you
already been
went.
traveling for 15 hours.
What
Okay.
made you choose those destinations?
Well, I knew I was going to. My friend and I had said we'll meet in Mexico City because they always let us in. Um,
That's
so
where you actually do have high up government connections that could just walk you in.
right. So I buy this ticket on this airline I've never even heard of. That is a Panama airline, and I fly to Panama. And then when I get to Panama, I'm informed that I can't leave the airport. Everyone knows
Uh-huh.
I'm like famous in the airport scene
Right,
around
yeah.
South America.
They've called ahead.
Yeah. And they go, you don't have your shots. I'm like, well, I'm not going to leave the airport, so it's
Mm.
fine. But you know what? They were nice enough in this weird airline to give me access to the lounge so I could take a shower and sleep. And then I finally do arrive in Mexico City. But from the time I took off to the time I landed, it was well over 30 hours of transit. I was very exhausted. I was very sick. I had been inhaling, plane air for so it was rough. Because I even to get to Rome,
Yeah.
Rome was just a layover from London. I was flying from London. So I'd already been through like a whole process. And I even had to fly out of that weird little airport that's in the center of London. The whole trip had already been terrible when I got to Rome. Not
I
alone.
feel like the Panama airline you flew deserves kind of a shout out for giving that lounge access. Was it Copa?
It was Copa Air, yeah.
Copa Air.
Yeah. Well, I bought the only. So it is like Christmas Eve. I don't know if I've mentioned that.
Oh no, I didn't realize it was Christmas. I thought Christmas had passed.
No, we were supposed to have Christmas dinner in Brazil.
Oh
so
my
it is Christmas
gosh.
Eve. And so
Ugh.
I had to buy a last minute flight from, okay, my mom listens to this podcast, so I can't say how much the flight was.
Yeah.
But a last minute flight from Brazil to Mexico City on
Uh-huh.
Copa Air.
Uh-huh.
The only ticket left was first class.
Oh my God. Oh, so that's how you got lounge access.
That's it. Yeah. And so basically,
Yeah.
it was not only did I not get to go on this Brazil trip, which was the most expensive trip I've never been on, right? All these things that we couldn't cancel. I
Yeah.
ended up having to buy a first class ticket on Copa, which no one's ever done. No offense, Copa, and fly all the way to Mexico City. So it was a very expensive mistake. So the point of this story is, folks, Google. Just for the love of God, just Google.
Yeah,
do you need a visa to go to Brazil? Answer your question and move on.
I mean, in today's information environment where you can find out literally anything in the world at your fingertips in a second, you could save yourself a world of pain. 36 hours traveling across the world, being surrounded and beaten up, threatened by Brazilian visa, all men, you said?
Oh, yeah, it was all men.
Brawny Brazilian men.
Yeah.
And then having to beg your way in Panama to get vaccines and shots just so you could be allowed to shower, if I understood correctly.
No, luckily
Finally,
they didn't make me get the vaccines,
Only to end up in Mexico City, where Ryan has been approximately 30,000 times before.
Right. So I don't have an episode on great things to do in Brazil because
that episode won't be coming soon.
Yeah, the 2 weeks I was supposed to spend there, I did not get to.
So that's the first P of just nailing down, do you have a problem? The second is to map out the process. So the second P is process. You got problem, you got process, because every visa is going to require a slightly different process. And there are some that are so painful it's hard to believe. I know famously in the US, China and Russia are very, very hard to get your visas. They have requirements where you need sponsorship from inside the country. Bhutan's somewhat similar, where you have to apply for a visa through a travel agency that you have paid in Bhutan. And so you have to map out what is the process going to be. And, sometimes it's easy. So, for example, Ryan, you and I were just talking about the visas that you can get on arrival. That can be very easy, but the process may require you to go to a particular airport. You may have to be in a particular terminal. And even then, you are almost guaranteed to have some amount of wait time in that airport while they process the visa. And you may need currency on hand, or at least a credit card that's going to work for you there to pay the fee that's associated with it. So even if it's on its face, it looks easy, there's lots of different pieces of preparation that you need to do before you go. And, another instance where some progress is being made at making this a little bit more intuitive is some countries are starting to dabble with e-visas, letting you apply for it online. So a good example of this is India. India's recently introduced a web form that you can apply and pay for a visa for Americans into India online. But as with so much government infrastructure, the web sites can be non-intuitive. They can ask you questions that are poorly translated, so you don't really know what they're asking. You can't get a confirmation number, so you're not even sure whether you correctly filed it. So there are pitfalls all along the way. And, you just want to be super buttoned up about following up and making sure you leave plenty of time, even when it looks easy on its face.
Have you ever had to go to a consulate or an embassy to get a visa?
Yes, yeah. So that's some countries will require that you actually go in person. Sometimes they want a paper form filled out in pen in your own hand. Sometimes they want to actually see you before they give you the visa. And, for folks that live in D.C. or New York, that can be relatively easy. So, yes, I had to go to the consulate when Catherine and I were going to Myanmar. And luckily, I was in New York at the time. But as it turned out, I had to go to the consulate in order to drop off a passport and have it looked at. But then they actually sent it back by mail and said, you actually need to fill out a form, even though you've been in person to the I think it was like the the consular to the UN. I mean, it had some fancy diplomatic name. You need to fill out this form and send your passport by mail to the embassy in D.C. So Catherine and I each filled out a form for our own relevant passports down to Myanmar.
This is so much work.
And, we made sure to do tracking on the envelopes that we sent down to the mail because you want to be able to confirm that they've received it. If they say they've lost it, you're truly up a creek without a paddle. So you want to double check everything. So about 2 weeks later, I receive in the mail my passport back, and it has in it a beautifully embossed visa. Looked incredibly official, was glossy. It's one of the most attractive things I've ever gotten in a passport. And so, I'm thinking, okay, I'm sitting pretty. This is fine. But Catherine, of course, who I was flying over with, we still hadn't gotten hers. So another week goes by, week and a half, and we were pretty far away from when we still had another month or buffer. And, still we're not hearing anything from the passport. And so we give a call down to the Burmese embassy, and they said, we're still working on it. It's in process. And finally, we get hers back. And what they did was they took the handwritten paper application, maybe 3 or 4 pages long, and they had stapled it into her passport. So there was no visa. There was no kind of sense of approval. It was just the application bare on it. And, I, as a super planner, I turned to her and said, well, there's no possible way you're going to get on a plane with that. Like, I mean, look at mine and look at yours. This is craziness.
Wait, so they were completely different.
Completely different. And
that doesn't make any sense.
But it does make sense in the fact that you have to realize that there are humans at the consulates and embassies that are approving your things. And
so they were like, this is our first time ever doing it. Maybe I just tape this together, or
yeah, I'm sure that's actually what happened. Yes, but this is the sort of thing that while a process may be in place, there is human error that may happen, and you've got to be prepared for that and have time for it. Now, Catherine,
can you imagine if all you had to do was you just had to staple it? You didn't actually have to go
really
through the whole
easy.
thing. Yeah.
Now, Catherine, being a bit more intrepid than I, said, yeah, I'll get on the flight and I'll just toss the dice once we fly across the world for, transfer in Hong Kong. So it's about what it took for you to get from London to Mexico City.
Right.
So we land in Myanmar. And I said to her, listen, I don't think we should stand together in line because I'm going to get in and you're not going to get in. And that's going to be complicated. And they're going to ask, why didn't you look for this visa that your boyfriend has at the time? I was your boyfriend.
Yeah.
And believe it or not,
she doesn't have a boyfriend any longer.
Not that I know of. I'm sure she does. A woman needs what she needs. We get up, and sure enough, they let us both right through. Didn't even blink.
Really?
Yeah. So clearly, the embassy person knew. Oh, we either put an $80 sort of laminated, beautiful, artistic, typed up, special passport photo visa. We iron it in. We make sure that it can't be separated or unsealed. Or we just, quickly staple the application into the passport and we just let them right through.
Do you think like an email had gone around? They were like, "Look, we ran out of these fancy stamps, so we're just stapling the old application straight to the passport."
The truth is, what I think probably happened was that Myanmar was just opening itself up to the West, and it was just starting to become a little easier to visit. And I think that they were seeing an uptick in visa applications. They probably didn't have the people or process that they needed to support the amount of tourism. And so I think they were cutting corners. And, I can't say I was unhappy to have a cool visa souvenir in my passport. So, we saw the country. It was great. And actually, Ryan, we are soon going to be doing a Myanmar closer look episode. So that's going to be great.
Oh, fantastic.
Maybe I'll search out a picture of my beautiful visa for the old Instagram.
I would expect nothing less from you, Kiernan.
And, I alluded to something that, beyond just the fees and the time that it could take, potential sponsorship, sometimes they ask for a very particular type of photograph.
Right.
Remember.
They never ask for a nude, from what I understand.
No, rarely do they ask for a nude. I actually heard that the U.S. might be changing that for people trying to come here. And,
Yes.
no, the other thing is, you may not realize they have to take your passport to put this visa inside of it. So if you have any business travel or international travel, even if you're going to Canada or Mexico and you need your passport in hand, you can't send it off to get your visa until you know you're going to be staying put for a while.
I mean, I would be petrified to put my passport in the U.S. mail,
Exactly right. I always do the tracking of the envelope just in case.
Yeah, so that way at least it's been lost.
Yeah, I know exactly where it was lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super helpful information.
It's more of a fake security blanket than anything
It's
else.
like, oh, cool. It was lost at that random depot in Houston. It's good to know.
Exactly. So we've covered off the first two P's. Problem. Do you have a problem? Then process. What is the exact process that this visa requires? And then the third is pain, which is I want you to ask yourself, how much is your tolerance for pain for going through this process? Because the truth is, as with many things, money can help smooth this process.
Yeah, my tolerance is nearly zero for bureaucracy.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hate the bureaucracy, but I do kind of get off on like the over organization of navigating these bureaucracies. And I know that if I nag enough, like by calling the Burmese embassy and hanging on, like they put me on hold, I was ready to hold for an hour and a half. I like overcoming those. I have a sense of accomplishment, so my tolerance for pain is pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, you thrive in bureaucratic situations.
I wouldn't say that, but I like overcoming bureaucratic situations.
Right.
And so if your tolerance for pain in the process of getting a visa is low, then what you're probably going to want to do is hire a visa agency. There's lots of businesses out there that do this day in and day out. They are absolute experts in what you need for your country's nationality to visit another country's. And I've got a couple here that I would recommend to you. I will again drop them in the show notes. We have good reports of interactions with these visa companies: Allied Passport and Visa, CIBT Visas, Passport Rush, and Visa Central. And these are 4 companies that are reliable, in touch, and expert. And so if your pain tolerance is low, it might be worth just ponying up a few $100, giving them all the information, letting them take care of it.
And that Passport Rush place sounds like they also expedite passports.
Well, and that actually is another option. And sometimes you can do that on your own, which is pay an extra fee and get expedited.
Yeah, and I when I got my first passport, I needed to get it expedited, and our congressman wrote a letter to, and it was like, on behalf of Mike, and I feel like that's all congressmen do nowadays. So reach out to your congressperson and be like, hey, get this expedited for me.
But who knows with the Green New Deal? I mean, if Ocasio-Cortez has to write for you, she might say, please deny this visa so that he doesn't contribute greenhouse gases to the world. Better that he be here and working on a civilian conservation core project.
Do you think she'll write that from her private jet?
I'm pretty sure Ocasio-Cortez doesn't have a private jet yet.
Not yet.
That's for when she has a talk show.
Right.
And another version that I've heard is some folks that need expedited visas, some consulates and embassies will open and say, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. every day, we approve expedited visas. So you have to come and get in line. And, people will get there 5 a.m., 4 a.m. just so they can be first in line because it's amazing how many people are going through this process at any one time in the world. So to jump that line can be very, very hard.
And this is the kind of thing in New York where people hire line waiters. I don't know if people out there know, but waiting in line is like a profession in New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're going to have some long wait times. Some of these countries require 2 to 3 months to process, especially at their busy time of year. And what's good about these agencies, Allied, CIBT, Passport Rush, Visa Central, is that they will be frank with you about how it's going to go, whether you have the amount of time, whether you have all those requirements. You just don't need to worry about it. Just, as ever, throw money at the problem and it gets significantly easier. So we have just one more piece. So we've determined if we have a problem. We've determined the process. We've investigated our tolerance for the pain. And finally, Ryan, it sounds like you did a great job at this fourth P when you were heading to Brazil. Patience. This is to say you should try not to worry. If you've been decently organized, if you stay in touch, it will probably work out. I mean, in the case of Ryan in Brazil, it doesn't always work out. But it will probably work out. And if you can make human contact with the people behind the process, you'll probably be on your way to your destination.
And one way to avoid problems is not to fly Air Italia because they're just fly out anywhere. They didn't even look at your visa.
Yeah. No, it was definitely Air Italia's problem, Ryan. And I thought maybe to give one more glimmer of hope. I will, in defense of the travel visa, for all the difficulty that it introduces into your travel life, I think that they are one of the highlights of a well-traveled person's passport. That's really what converts a passport into a prime souvenir. And it's super fun to compare with other travelers. Look at this visa, look at this visa. Some places will put a visa that takes up the full page of your passport. And I kind of love giving up that real estate because usually it's really something to look at.
Yeah, I don't unfortunately even have that many visas in my passport. And I feel like if you, in the United States, we're pretty lucky that we have so much visa-free travel.
Yeah, that's true. But
yeah.
What do you remember at all what the Russian one looked like?
I'm sure it was like Peter the Great, and maybe a figure skater and a piano player. I don't know.
Do you remember, were the letters in Cyrillic?
They were it was definitely in Cyrillic, yeah.
Yeah, see, that's so cool. That makes, it's like a little artwork.
And for that, we paid a service to make that happen for us. There wasn't much of a process there.
Well, and that's one of those cases where because they require the sponsor, you need to hire a service.
Right,
maybe
exactly.
Not on this side, but on that side, or on both.
Yes, I bet some people do it on both. I just want to stress, folks, it's incredibly important to follow this. As somebody who has had to spend multiple days in transit to get to a place I didn't get into, I say, just check. If you even if it's like, what, one day I want to go to Brazil, Google visas to Brazil. Why not? Why not have that information for your later informed decision?
I mean, Ryan, my heart is flooding with joy to hear you say this. You, the chance encounter, fly by the seat of the pants, everything will work out. You are endorsing me saying you have to overplan.
Yeah, you have to. This is the one place where overplanning is acceptable.
Absolutely. All right, Ryan. Well, why don't you just run down those 4 Ps for us to sum it up, and then we're going to get to the last stop.
All right. The first P, problem. Find out if your destination requires a visa. This is the number one thing you got to do. Travel.state.gov will probably help you out. Process. Figure out what the process is and what you need to do. Pain. Determine your tolerance. Are you the kind of person like Kiernan who loves to jump through hoops, that wants to live in a Kafkaesque nightmare? Or are you somebody like me who has a very, very low tolerance for bureaucratic pain?
And love throwing away money.
Yeah, the combination of those two things, like my favorite things to do. And then lastly, be patient. It'll probably work out if you've allowed yourself enough time. Just be patient, and you're going to get to go on that dream vacation.
And actually, if it doesn't work out, that last P could be Panama.
Yeah. Yeah. Panama.
Yeah, just fly to Panama.
Just get your shots, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Ryan. Well, thank you very much. And listen, I think we got to get our travel visas because it's time for us to travel to the last stop.
The last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this
All right, Ryan.
train.
You're
Everyone, please leave the train.
You're familiar with the last stop, right?
Yeah, it's the people segment.
Yeah. Popularly known as the people segment. It's the final segment on this show. The name Last Stop kind of tips its hand in that direction. It's your favorite segment. It's my favorite segment. It's a moment. It's a time. It's a place. It's three-dimensional in that way, where you and I each take a moment to share one thing, just one. This isn't the whole show. This isn't the meat of the show. It's a nice little capper at the end. One thing that we read or we did or we cooked or we smelt or we bought, something maybe we imbibed. It could be something we dreamed. I mean, the definition is broad, but it has to be. It always has to be something that fed the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So, Ryan, I got to ask, I hope you're a little more organized on this than you were on your Brazilian visa. Do you have the last stop this week?
Look, everyone has been talking about this amazing young woman, Greta Thunberg, who is
unbelievable.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Well, when she came to the United States, she didn't get a visa. She didn't need one, but she also didn't fly. She took, I believe, a boat. A boat made of biodynamic natural wine bottles.
Yeah,
I think you might have to check on that one. But
yeah, it took her like weeks, and she sailed across the ocean.
Who even knew the ocean still did that, right? I mean, but it does. It does.
I thought you could just walk across all the plastic we've thrown into the ocean and create a plastic land bridge.
Yeah, I think that she should have just walked from Russia to Alaska. I mean, that's just a simple,
exactly right.
Hop, skip, and a jump. But her being here coincides with the release of this new study from the United Nations that shows that airplane emissions of carbon dioxide will explode by 2050.
Like actually explode?
I mean, if it gets any worse, it might actually explode.
Oh, dear.
Put it in some context. Right now, airline emissions make up about 2.5% of global carbon emissions, which is much smaller than other things. But by 2050, at the current rate of growth, it'll take up approximately a quarter of our carbon budget, our future carbon budget. So it's going to represent a significant amount of emissions. So what are the solutions here? People should fly less. Maybe people should not fly. You and I think, help by not. I never fly a private jet.
No,
I fly commercial.
I don't. I've never flown on a private jet. I'm realizing right now. Boy, I feel a little empty for having said that.
Well, if I was offered,
but I can claim it as a No, I did that for the green purpose, of course.
Sure, same.
Yeah, of course. I was thinking.
If I was offered to fly on a private jet, I would definitely make sure that they would contribute something to make my flight carbon neutral.
Is that right? You would make sure of that? I mean, well, I guess we did just establish that you love giving away money. So.
Well, by make sure of it, I would suggest, and if they said no, I would feel like I'd done my part for the environment.
Sure.
But anyway, this is shocking, and it makes me think that when you make fun of me for taking a train up to upstate and just having like a nice small vacation and not flying across the world.
I don't make fun of you for that. I think it's lovely.
No, I just think that I am basically the Greta Thunberg of Bushwick.
Yeah, I definitely think of you as the Greta Thunberg of this podcast and of Bushwick.
Yeah, we're both committed to taking Uru pools, where you're sharing the. Anyway,
that's true. Does she drive? Does she drive around in like only solar powered cars?
She walks everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Where do they get the energy? These I don't know. What are they? Gen A? Have we just gone back to the beginning at this point?
She's still Gen Z.
Gen Z, all right.
Yeah, but she's like a young hip Gen Z. Not
sure,
like, one of those old college kids.
No, right.
Anyway, so yeah, that's where we are. So the airlines don't have much of a plan.
No, because they're not going to be able to get the technology in place for us to continue to fly as we do and reduce carbon emissions, right?
No, I mean, the technology is growing at a pace that's too slow to match demand. And then, as we talked about, demand's exploding, right? Like the demand for travel, both domestically and internationally, continues to rise, and there's no end in sight for this trend. So
no, you can definitely see that, and reflected in our listenership for sure, just on the rise as people desire to travel.
Oh my gosh, we've had our best month after month. So, and if folks want us to have even more listeners, they can give us those 5 stars on the old iTunes.
Would love the 5 stars in the iTunes. We're doing pretty well. We got great ratings there. But yeah,
we
if
have
you
that
head
1
over,
4-star. We have that 1 4-star. I always want to call
is that
out.
still there?
We have 1 4, all 5s and 1 4.
I don't like the jokester that did that. So
No,
yeah,
that's a major outlier, folks. That's like a poll showing Bernie Sanders in the lead. That can't be trusted.
So, head to Apple and give Out of Office a Travel Podcast those meaty 5 stars. And if you really like us, here's what you could give us as a little pre-Halloween treat. You could put a little written up, boy, are these boys great kind of review up on Apple. Just a little tippy tap of the keyboard. Put that right in the pillowcase that we're holding as we are dressed up as each other for Halloween. I don't know. Is that what you're planning on being for Halloween, Ryan?
Well, I am. You know what? I'm not taking any Halloween advice from the Prime Minister of Canada. That guy's got a very limited Halloween repertoire. Yeah, I haven't decided yet, Kiernan. I might go as you.
Yeah, you could do worse than me.
Yeah. Well, with that haircut, I could definitely do worse.
Well, at least I have some.
Oh,
you took it there. Right. You took it there. You did.
All right. Do you have a last stop, Kiernan? Okay.
I do have a last stop, Ryan. So my last stop is this article that was published in the New Yorker a few weeks ago. It's in the September 23rd issue. It's by a writer.
That was a long time ago, Kiernan.
Getting
around to it.
I'm just getting around to it. It's by a writer named Brooke Jarvis. Right. And Brooke Jarvis wrote, the title of the piece is called "Who Speaks for Crazy Horse?" And Ryan, do you know the Crazy Horse Memorial?
I know of the Crazy Horse Memorial because you're quite a fan of it.
Yeah, I think that maybe I've mentioned it on the podcast before, and it's funny because we should have
mentioned it to me, all the time.
Yeah, frequently.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised it didn't come up on my interview with James Van Nuys a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Rapid City, because it is a competitive monument just down the road from Mount Rushmore. And the idea behind it, or at least the idea on its surface, how it's typically sold to tourists, is that it is a Native American answer for the 4 presidents on the Black Hills at Mount Rushmore.
Right. So it's close enough to these that you should go see this, right? Obviously, if you're seeing Mount Rushmore.
Well, that is what's so interesting about this article, is that it complicates the question of whether you should go see it.
Really?
So, on its face, the plan for this monument is that it's going to be Crazy Horse, the Native American warrior who famously participated in the Battle of Little Bighorn, taking down Custer. And he'll be riding a horse and holding out an arm, pointing out to the future. And this is actually, we are 71 years into the work going in to this memorial. And all that's finished is Crazy Horse's face. There's like the outline of the arm, but the plans for what this will look like, what it could look like, are quite extraordinary. So just to give you a sense from the article itself, this is a quote, "The scale will be mind-boggling. An overall height nearly 4 times that of the Statue of Liberty, the arm long enough to accommodate a line of semi-trucks, the horse's ears the size of school buses, its nostrils carved 25 feet around and 9 feet deep. It will be the largest sculpture in the history of the world."
Will it ever
when
be
it is
finished?
completed?
Will
If
it
it is
ever
completed.
So do we think it? Yeah.
That's the big question, because a lot of the marketing that you experience when you visit Crazy Horse is that what you're paying, which is significant, like $30 to park your car and take a bus ride to the base. And also, there's tourist attractions, there's food, there's lots of things to do there. It's suggested you could easily believe that you are giving money to a Native American cause. But what's interesting and what this article investigates is that there's actually a family that goes back 2 generations that have been building this, and it's actually a Polish American sculptor that began the Crazy Horse Memorial.
Wait, is this appropriation?
Well, that is a part of the question here. So his name was Korzak Zielkowski, and he was recruited to start building this work in response to Rushmore. And by all accounts, this was his life's work that he was devoting himself to completely. His first marriage, it was rumored, fell apart because he was so devoted to it. And when he married his second wife, he said, "The monument comes first, then you, then our children."
Right.
And through the years, his children, who are now older, many of his children have actually stayed around and are currently pulling their salaries, their significant salaries, from the tourist attractions and the full kind of machine that supports a visit to Crazy
So
Horse.
this is a scam to support a Polish American family under the guise of a Native American hero.
Well, that is
It's brilliant. You know,
it
beats working.
Yeah, well, I mean,
They're not even building the monument.
Well, that is the question: is are they prolonging the building of the monument so that this just is a never-ending project? Are they, for example, they have actually registered the trademark of Crazy Horse, and the family claims that they are doing it to protect the honor and the name Crazy Horse. The example in the article is that, what if there was a Crazy Horse laundromat? We don't want that to be, so we registered the name.
Right, sure, of course.
And of course, they're cashing in on it. And in fact, I mean, some kind of creepy, bad seeming actions here. Maybe not on the up and up. One, they have actually turned down offers of millions of dollars from the U.S. government to take over this project, to make it more transparent, more on the up and up, funded by public money.
So how much are they making off this if they're willing to turn down that much money?
I mean, many, many millions, and potentially it can continue on into the future. And I will say, when you drive by, you want to go because they have an impressive museum there. The sculpture itself, I mean, as I said, this is a work in progress that is stunningly large.
But look, if you want to give real money to Native American tribes and you want to honor their history, Mohegan Sun is still the way to go.
Or Foxwood. No. I mean, this is the Lakota people that
Right.
would be supported here. That are the.
But are they getting anything? Even like from a CSR standpoint?
I mean, of course, like there is the argument that the museum and this is a place that tourists with misconceptions come. There are Native Americans employed by this attraction who say, I come out and I do dances and I open people's eyes to the traditions that my people hold dear. And also I tell the history of Crazy Horse. But there are many also in the article who say this is not right. This is my heritage. You're laying claim to it. You're cheapening it. And just one little fact that I also found fascinating was they were apparently approached. You know those state quarters that has like a symbol of state on every one?
Young Ryan had one of each.
Of course. The family was approached for the South Dakota quarter, perhaps Crazy Horse, the monument could be featured on it. And they turned that down.
Really?
And the reason they turned it down was because the image would then become public domain. So there's a lot of creepy stuff here that suggests maybe they are not just out for preserving the heritage.
One thing, though, I think to their credit is actually the cafe at the museum has the best pierogies, I think, in the territory.
Definitely the best pierogies that you could get at a monument to Native Americans.
Just delicious pierogies. Yeah.
So it's complicated. It brings up lots of complicated and interesting history. And of course, struggles with the question of how Native Americans have been treated by the rest of us, and why their history should get respected, and how that comes to life, and who profits off of it. So I will certainly drop the link in the show notes.
Certainly not the most egregious example of white men profiting off of Native Americans that I can think of, but
fair point.
One to watch.
Absolutely.
So what are we uncovering next week, Kiernan?
So Ryan, next week we've got a fascinating interview that I did with a man. His name is Thomas Jungles, And Thomas Jonglez, it's spelled Jonglez. And that might be familiar to some of our listeners. He founded a publishing house bearing that name, Jonglez, and he puts out travel guides all over the world. They are my favorite travel guides. So I was thrilled to talk to Thomas about what it's like to start a travel guide company, what it takes to be distinctive there. And also, he's an incredible world traveler. At the age of 18, he got on a plane. He had never traveled out of France. He got on a plane to Beijing and for 7 months traveled back to Paris over land. And so he talks about that, many other adventures across South America. And we really dig deep into this publishing industry. So tune in for an insider's look of travel guide publishing with Thomas Jonglez.
And did you pitch him my Mexico City suggestion?
I'm sorry to say, Ryan, they actually just came out with their brand new Mexico City guidebook. So you're going to have to wait for the next round for all of your recommendations in those previous 2 episodes to be included.
I'm just going to staple my recommendations in that guidebook. So that is
absolutely
as official as it gets. Well, look, Kiernan, until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
You think that perhaps a Native American family should go to Poland and, maybe do
Oh, that's a good idea. Put up a Chopin. Absolutely. Or a John Paul II. Oh, my God. You'd be raking it in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.